Okay, so since this is the first week that we go without a Game of Thrones episode, I just figured I should do this. Just put my ideas and thoughts together about what I think is going to happen in season 7. For the most part, in the past, I've been able to make pretty decent guesses about the way that One Piece is going to evolve as a narrative. And one of the reasons why I like both of these, One Piece and Game of Thrones, is because the world building is very unique and because everything is interwoven. You have characters that show up at one point and then come back. And for the most part, every arc or action is interconnected to the next. So with that in mind, I want to start with the final scene of season 6. Obviously, you've seen it before. I've been rewatching this over and over again. And it's Dany there. And something that I didn't notice before is that if you look at the fleet, all right, you have the Targaryen sails with the black and the red, but if you look closely, you also have Dornish sails. And that explains basically the time jump in which Varys came back from Dorne, told Daenerys that they could count on the Dornish, and they now have like part of the Dornish fleet heading over to Westeros. Now, as much as I would just like to run my mouth and just say like, "Oh, I wish this could happen in season 7," because that's just the way I wish things would work out, we actually do have some clues, some very well-established clues about what the future of the series holds, and they come in the form of visions. One is from Bran and one is from Dany. So let's start with Dany first. Now, this vision actually takes place in the House of the Undying back in season 2. I think a lot of people overlook it because season 2, you kind of remember that season for Blackwater, and everything else just kind of gets overshadowed. But the vision is this: Daenerys walks into a room, which is actually the throne room, and we see it in ruin. She looks up, and the ceiling has been destroyed, probably due to some explosion or some fire from above. This kind of explains a vision that Bran had when he saw the shadow of a dragon flying over King's Landing. And we know she's coming there anyway, so that's beside the point. We see Daenerys, and she notices that it's actually snowing inside of the throne room. Keyword snow, as in Jon Snow, the rightful ruler, right? The person that should be on the throne. Now that it's been confirmed that he's actually Rhaegar and Lyanna's son, I mean, he has the strongest claim to the throne. And I know a lot of people say, like, or may argue that he's actually technically still a bastard because he was born out of wedlock, but some speculate that Rhaegar and Lyanna actually got married in secret. The problem with that, though, is that Rhaegar was still technically married to Elia Martell at the time, so who knows? I mean, the whole legitimacy of Jon's claim to the throne will be revealed by Bran in due time. In fact, I think Bran is like one of the few characters in the show who I can pretty much say that is safe from dying, at least for now. Like he's the only one who knows Jon's identity, so he can't die before he reveals that. And even then, I remember the three-eyed raven saying that he will learn to fly, probably by warging into Dany's dragons or something. So until that happens, Bran is pretty much safe. Anyway, Dany keeps walking and she sees herself walking through the wall, like the actual wall. She gets to the other side and sees a tent, and inside is Drogo with her son. So we know both of these characters are dead, and both of them declare their love for each other, and then Daenerys ends up leaving. Now, what does this mean? Well, I think this scene has two meanings. One is figurative, and the other one is more literal. So, if you look at the chronology of the sequence, we can understand that the throne room is in ruin and that the wall is still standing. This may mean that Cersei has to be eliminated, and either Jon or Daenerys has to assume power by destroying, at least a bit of King's Landing before the White Walkers come into the Seven Kingdoms. And it makes sense too, right? Because a lot of people, myself included, thought that season 6 was going to end with the wall coming down. But that didn't happen yet. And I think part of the reason why it didn't happen is because I think Daenerys needs enough time to get to know the major players of Westeros, more specifically the Starks. You can't rule over Westeros if you have little to no knowledge about what the fuck is going on in the north, especially not where with things going the way they are. So, if the Walkers come in and no other alliances have taken place to defeat Cersei, or at least to try and overthrow her or establish some type of stability, the whole thing is going to turn into a free-for-all, and it's just going to be a huge clusterfuck. So Daenerys needs the North, and Jon needs those dragons if he wants to stand a chance against those White Walkers. Plus, if you look at who Daenerys surrounds herself with, like her staff, it makes perfect sense for her to want to be, at least eventually, friends with Jon. She's got Theon, who we know feels guilty as hell for fucking the Starks over, so we know that Theon can vouch for Jon. We got Tyrion, who knows Jon and can assure Daenerys that he's a good guy who's honorable and trustworthy, right? And then finally we have the fact that Jorah came from House Mormont. And so the fact that, he served her so well, it probably means that Daenerys will remember the greatness of House Mormont, and since it's pledged itself to Jon, well, you get the picture. You can put two and two together. Bottom line is, Jon has pretty good letters of recommendation for Daenerys to want to consider him being an ally.
And then as of right now, thanks to Sansa and Littlefinger, the Vale is also allied with the North. So if you become friends with the North, that kind of implies that you also become friends with the Vale. Unless Littlefinger really convinces Sansa to screw Jon over, in which case then that's a problem. So that would make, like, in terms of like Team Daenerys, she could have the possibility of having like the North, the Iron Islands, the Vale, the Reach, and Dorne under her command. If not, like, she would at least be on friendly terms with them. So that's 5 out of the 7 kingdoms under her belt.
Now, if you go back to the vision, that scene where she just walks through the wall and she sees Khal Drogo in this little hut or whatever, this little tent, you can also ascribe a different meaning to it. And the first thing you would question yourself about would be like, wait, why is Khal Drogo at the wall in this vision? What does that mean? Like I said, they both declare their love for each other. Like, yeah, I love you. You're the moon of my life, my sun and stars, all that romantic shit. And so the thing here is like, why is this taking place? Why is this declaration of love? Why is the person that Dany loves more than anything else in the world at the wall? I mean, Dany has never been at the wall before, ever. And then we saw the snow coming down in the throne room, which again is a reference to Jon. So could it be possible that that scene with Khal Drogo is also symbolic to represent the fact that Dany's true love is Jon, who at that point in time was at the wall? And again, like I said in my review, since it's already been established that Rhaegar is Jon's dad, that would technically make Daenerys Jon's aunt. So there's like, if they fall in love, there would be like some borderline incest going on. But at the same time, if you look at the way this show and the books are written, like, I think maybe this show like has worked its way into desensitizing us about incest from the very first episode, to the point that we kind of accept that that's part of this world, like this fictitious universe. Because look at like the very first episode, what do we see? Jaime and Cersei. It's right there. It's like boom, right in front of your face. So maybe that's a way of setting up viewers and readers to be a little bit more desensitized to the whole incest thing, so that by the end you're just like, oh, well, Daenerys and Jon, whatever. At least they're not brother and sister like Jaime and Cersei. You know what I mean? That's the whole process. That's the writing process that I see going forward.
And there's also like a bunch of parallels between them. Like Kit Harington even said at one point, he did an interview when he said that scene in Battle of the Bastards where Jon is gasping for air kind of reminded him of the Misa scene with Daenerys being, sort of like brought up by the people. Like they're both like shots that are very similar in composition. So, and a lot of people think that it's because he's like the Song of Ice and Fire that refers to Jon because he's half Targaryen and a Stark, right? But what if it's also about like Jon and Daenerys coming together and having both of these narratives intersect by the end? The next thing is Bran's vision that we got in season 6. Now there's a lot of back and forth and most of the scenes we've already seen before, but there's one sequence in specific that I think is very telling about what's about to happen. So we see the Mad King saying "burn them all," coupled with some shots of wildfire there. Now this shot here is actually from the explosion of the finale, and we know that Cersei was responsible for this. But then, in the same vision, we actually see Jaime kill the Mad King and take the throne, or at least sit on it for the time being. And we know that's what actually happened, that actually took place, and that's why Jaime is called the Kingslayer. But what if this scene is also a representation of something that's about to happen? One of the main reasons that Jaime ended up killing the Mad King was because he was obsessed with burning people alive, like innocent people using wildfire. And at one point, like Jaime even tells Brienne that the Mad King had like wildfire hidden everywhere in King's Land. I mean, this stuff is all over the place, not just under the Red Keep and not just under the Sept of Baelor. Like it's all over Flea Bottom and stables, all over the place.
So Cersei hasn't run out of this stuff. It's still there. And another thing is like, it was mentioned in this season that one of the reasons why they had such a difficult time dealing with the High Sparrow was because he had the support of the people. A lot of people, a lot of really poor people really supported him and really admired what he was doing. In fact, I think at one point they even mentioned the fact that if we take the High Sparrow out, we risk having a civil war here because so many people support this guy. So the animosity towards Cersei is there already. She has the ability, the capacity to use wildfire against the people that rebel against her. So I guess the question is, she's already unhinged. So the question is like, why wouldn't she? The real question here is, will Jaime stand by and watch his twin sister burn everything to the ground? I seriously doubt that he will. So will Jaime be the one to kill Cersei? I think yes. I think that's a pretty safe bet.
And I think so because if you look at Jaime's character arc, his main struggle has always been with judgment. Like, he feels judged. He doesn't feel at peace with himself because everybody talks shit about him. And he says he doesn't care, but like that scene with Brienne in the bathtub, you can tell it really gets to him. The fact that he's participated in incest, the fact that he's the Kingslayer. And so if you follow that character arc to the very end, I'm pretty sure that Jaime's going to have to get some type of redemption to some degree. So I definitely think that he will be redeemed by the end. And the best way to gain that sort of redemption is to stop a massacre from happening. That's it for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Like the video if you did. I appreciate that. Subscribe to my channel for more content if you haven't. And comment down below with your thoughts and theories for Season 7. Thanks. Bye.